Welcome back everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I set up the analytics page for our freelancers inside of the Unicorn Factory. It's built with Webflow, Airtable, Parabola, and a few other little bits and bobs. So let's check it out. Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Connor. I'm the founder of the Unicorn Factory, a freelancer marketplace in New Zealand. On this channel, I teach people who cannot code how to build their own online directories and marketplaces using no-code tools like Webflow, Airtable, and Zapier. If you are thinking about building your own business, but you currently don't know where to get started or you don't know how to code, then subscribe to the channel because I make a whole bunch of videos and tutorials and breakdowns of how to use these different tools to get your own platform up and running. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down one of the more advanced features that I have on the Unicorn Factory, which is the analytics page inside of the freelancer dashboard. Now, I use the analytics page to show users how many page views they've had in the last 30 days, how many inquiries they've been getting, how many people have been clicking on their portfolio links and their LinkedIn links, and it's just a really good way to let users know how the Unicorn Factory is working for them. But without further ado, let's just dive into it and see how it works. Cool, so the analytics dashboard is a pro feature of mine, but you can actually make it public to everyone, but this is what it looks like. It just displays certain stats, for example, how many people have visited my profile page in the last 30 days, how many inquiries I've received, how many people have clicked on my portfolio link, and then also how many people have clicked on my LinkedIn link. So just basic information that gives the freelancers an idea of how well the Unicorn Factory is working for them. So let's now dig into how it's all set up. So the first place where I'd start if you want to build an analytics dashboard is Webflow. So the way that I started is I just built a separate page inside of Webflow for the analytics dashboard, and as you can see here, it is actually not built in a Webflow CMS template, which means that the data that is displayed in someone's profile is not being pulled from the Webflow CMS, it's coming from somewhere else. And the place that it's coming from is Memberstack. So when you start off, all you need to do is just assign it and put placeholder text where the numbers are to be displayed. So in order to display the different variables inside of the analytics dashboard, we're gonna need to set up separate fields in Memberstack for each user. So the way that you do it is you jump into Memberstack, you click on forms and fields, and then in there, you just have to add a new custom field for each field that you want to display. So you can already see I've added mine for page views, direct leads, direct inquiries, basically all the fields that will be displayed inside of the analytics dashboard. So one important thing to note is when you create a field for the first time, those fields will be visible to the user when they click on the profile link inside of your project. So just make sure to turn on the toggle that hides a particular field that you don't want your user to see inside of Memberstack. So now if you go and have a look inside of your members fields, you'll be able to see that all these different fields have been added to the Memberstack user page. And here you can see all of my variables have already been pre-populated because I ran the automation that I'm about to show you last night. But in your case, if you're just doing it for the first time, these fields will be empty. So next, in order to display the numbers inside of the analytics dashboard, we need to jump back into Webflow and we need to apply tags or attributes to this particular tag field, which at the moment just has placeholder text. So if I want to display the direct profile inquiries, I just need to click on the placeholder text, go over to the toggle, and then apply this attribute here, which is data minus ms member, and then in the value, you just need to jump into Memberstack, click on the green button on the far right, and then copy and paste over the value into the value field inside of Webflow. And now what will happen is whatever number is inside of Memberstack will now be displayed in the published version of your website. Just a heads up, this number won't be displayed inside of Webflow because in order for this number to be displayed, Memberstack needs to load, and Memberstack doesn't load on Webflow or the preview page. So the last step to complete the setup is to add a column for each variable that you want to display in the analytics dashboard inside of Airtable, because Airtable is where all the data is going to end up in. And that is going to be used as the source to feed all the information to Webflow and Memberstack. So you can see here, I have a whole bunch of different variables, and I just want to quickly explain how each variable is pulled into that particular place. So let's start off with the direct messages one. What I'm using here is a special field inside of Airtable called a count. And what that does is it counts how often a particular user was mentioned in a different table. So in this case, this table counts how often this particular user was mentioned in the messages table. Now, if you watch my previous video on how my messaging automation works, you'll know that when a client fills out a contact form on a freelancer's page, the freelancer will be contacted, but more importantly, they'll be mentioned, and that particular mention counts towards this count here. The same logic applies to the public job count, which is the count of how often a freelancer was notified about a job being posted to our job board. And also intros made references how often a freelancer requested an introduction. And both of these variables are referenced in the make introduction table and also in the public job submissions table. The leads field is a count which simply adds up the direct messages and the intros made for the total leads that they have received. So now that I have these four numbers, I can pretty much tick off these fields inside of my analytics dashboard, and now I only need to find a way to find the page views variable, the portfolio link clicks variable, and the LinkedIn link clicks variable. So if we have a look inside of Airtable, these variables here are actually static numbers, which means that I have to actually find a different way to update these numbers on a day-to-day basis. So I actually get this information from Google Analytics. For all of you who don't know what Google Analytics is, it's a tool that you can use on your websites to see how people interact with your website. You can see how many users have appeared, but more importantly, you can see what profile pages they've visited, what links they've clicked on, and you can then use those variables to then import them into Airtable. So if you go and search for a user inside of Google Analytics, you can actually see how many page views they've had, how many different users have viewed that particular page, and then you can send that information to Airtable, and then from Airtable to the Unicorn Factory Analytics dashboard. So just to conclude the setup, we need to focus on doing three things. First of all, we need to build and design the analytics dashboard inside of Webflow. The next thing is add custom fields inside of Airtable and Memberstack. And then the final thing is apply Memberstack attributes to the placeholder text inside of the Webflow analytics dashboard page. Cool, so now that we've got that all set up, now we just need to get the automation up and running. And the tool that I use to run the automation is Parabola. Now the reason that I use Parabola instead of Zapier is because Parabola is way better for syncing entire data sets rather than dealing with one record at the time. So I started using Parabola about 7 to 8 months ago, and it's been a real awesome tool. And the main purpose for me using it is to make sure that all my databases are kept in sync. But let's just dive in so I can show you how I send data from Airtable and Google Analytics to Memberstack and Webflow using Parabola. Cool, so right now we're looking at a bird's eye view of Parabola. Now the main difference to understand between Zapier and Parabola is Zapier's automation is triggered by events happening, for example a form being filled out or someone making a payment, whereas in Parabola it runs on a schedule that I set. So every night at midnight I trigger the automation to run, and what happens is Parabola then goes through all these individual steps that I've set up. So in this case it starts to import the Airtable data, it starts to import the Google Analytics data, and then it exports it into different places, and it always happens every single day at the same time. So let's go and have a look at the first step. So the first thing that happens is I have an Airtable import, and what happens there is Parabola goes and looks at every single field that I've currently got set up inside of Airtable. So it pulls in absolutely everything, so page views, direct messages, everything that is currently in there. Also the fields that are currently not displayed get pulled into Parabola. At the same time, it also imports all of the Google Analytics page views that have happened within the last 30 days because I've set a filter to only filter out page views from the last 30 days until today. So what happens then is there are a bunch of transformations and filtering that happens. So in this case, I filter out only active freelancer profiles because I don't want to update all the freelancers who are currently still in review or have been removed from the platform. Inside of Google Analytics, I need to make some transforms to basically clean up the URL and filter it out so that I'm only left with the slug, which is the final part of the URL. So for those of you who don't know what the slug is, it's that Connor minus Finlayson section at the end here. And then I combine the Airtable records and the Google Analytics records where the slug matches. So if I look into my Airtable base, I have a slug field, so the Connor minus Finlayson field. And once I've done all the transformations inside of Google Analytics, I also have those fields for every single user as well. So all I need to do is match up those slugs with each other, and what that will do is combine the tables. Next, I have to go through a few little transformations, but then I export the first load of data to Airtable, and there you can see what the entire data set looks like. And what happens then is all the page views from the last 30 days are automatically updated inside of Airtable. Next, what happens is I then have another API export, and this API export here sends all of the information to Memberstack. And once that step happens, all of these figures update. So my page views, my total leads, my total inquiries, and it basically pulls all the up-to-date information from Airtable, which I updated in the previous step inside of Parabola. And that is all I needed to update my analytics dashboard on a day-to-day basis. Now, there is another step involved here where I import the Webflow CMS and update some fields inside of Webflow, but that does not directly affect the analytics page. What that does is it updates a daily score that I give freelancers that determine where they sit on the listings pages. So the higher their score, the higher their position on that listing page. But that is a whole different video that I'll be making soon. But the whole key thing to keep in mind here is that, again, all I need to do is join the records with each other and then export it out to Webflow or whatever other tool that I want to use. And that concludes how the automation setup works. Now, Parabola is not a super easy tool to learn. However, I do think that it is very learnable, and once you get the hang of it, honestly, it is incredibly powerful, because what it allows you to do is, one, make sure that all your databases are in sync, which can be an absolute lifesaver, because if your data is different on Webflow and Airtable, things just get messy. But this particular automation has been particularly useful for me to be sure that I can sort freelancers given how much work they've been getting, but also to create their analytics dashboard that gives them a really transparent overview of how the Unicorn Factory is working for them. Of course, I haven't gone into the exact detail of how all the different tools work, but if you get in touch with them or just leave questions in the comment section down below, I'll help out as much as I can. But that is pretty much it. That is how the analytics dashboard is set up in the Unicorn Factory. I hope that it was a helpful video, and hopefully that will get you started setting up your own dashboard for your own platform. So thank you so much for sticking around for the entire video, and I will see you back next week. Bye!